Tons of activity over the last 24 hours in the NFL as big-time contracts are signed for Trey Hendrickson, Hamilton with the Ravens, and suspensions, and of course, every team's cuts, and now waiver claims, the most impactful of those on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
And Williamson NFL Show, Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all the everydayers out there. Thanks for hanging with us, getting ready for a new season. If you're new, subscribe on YouTube and welcome to the program. YouTube, anywhere you listen to your podcast, you can find Peacock and Williamson daily. We'd love to have you as well every day as we roll through this season, breaking down the entire NFL, and no time to waste today, Matt, because there's so much to get into, so many cuts, so much stuff has happened in the last 24 hours since we last spoke. We're going to start with the two big contracts that happened, one long, one short, and the national nightmare and the Cincinnati nightmare now over. Trey Hendrickson is going to be back at least for this season with the Cincinnati Bengals. I just saw a video of him warming up, getting ready for practice, doing some high knees and getting out there on the football field, which is obviously maybe the most important player now for this football team to get out there and have some semblance of a defense. So Joe Burrow doesn't have to score 40 points a week on the offensive side of the ball for the Cincinnati Bengals to win some games. And it's looking like it's going to be a divorce at some point next offseason. But for now, re-upped, more money to put him in line with the top edge rushers in the NFL for one season for Trey Hendrickson. And then he will be an unrestricted free agent going into next offseason. Real quick, before I get your comments on this, Matt, a few notes on the revised contract. For cap purposes, the deal includes a one-year void, so keeps that cap number only increased by $3 million instead of the whatever $15 million he got added to his contract this year. The deal does not include a no tag clause next offseason. It would be costly for the Bengals to tag him, but that's the thing that kind of would the Bengals be doing Trey Hendrickson dirty if they tagged him next offseason after all this?
That's what I didn't know and was curious about so first off, I think it's a very goodwill thing to do to the locker room. We think we can win the Super Bowl this year, Joe. I'm talking to Burrow. And we're going to make a run at this thing. We're going to give it all your best players for 2025. And let's go win the North and the AFC and the Super Bowl and raise the Lombardi. Let's give it a try. It's our best team I can field. And as opposed to, we're going to trade this guy for a second and third round pick that doesn't help us at all this year. So that, to me, that's probably the other option that other teams probably threw out there. Cool. But from the Bengals' perspective, assuming you don't win that Super Bowl, and they could, then you probably let him walk for a third-round comp pick at the end of the year, which isn't good return on investment at all, assuming he has a reasonably good year and gets 12 sacks or 13, whatever, has a good year. But, man, if you're going to franchise him, then you're just digging yourself a terrible. To me, that should not be an option.
I don't know how Trey Hendrickson signed a deal without that.
Yeah, I assumed it was part of it. Yeah.
Or at least one of the things that teams do or that agents do is the date for the void year or is after the tag deadline. So it screws the team if they do tag you because the timing of things, and then and so it's effectively a no tag, even though there's not a no tag clause. But they didn't have that either, apparently, in this contract.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing: is the Bengals have done this with T. Higgins already, right?
Yeah, good point.
So that's fascinating to me, and we have to fast forward a few months to see this all come to fruition. But if the goal is to be a free agent for Trey Hendrickson, and we know how the Bengals do business. By the way, did you see this report from Boomer Esiason about the Bengals Ring of Honor players. Hold on, I'm going to get it right.
Oh, I did see this. This is crazy to me.
So like, just, the Bengals do business differently than a lot of us expect they should and will do business. By the way, it's a $14 million raise, so $30 million this year for Trey Hendrickson, which is
so he's happy for now, which is great. And maybe it's just a case of, let's play this year out and we'll jump off that bridge when we come to it, and maybe you just go your separate way. And maybe there's a handshake agreement. We won't franchise you. I don't know, but that's the only sticking point I could see here.
So essentially the Bengals are having their Ring of Honor members at the Ring of Honor induction ceremony this year, but the team is so cheap that they didn't even pay for the room for those players to come and be part of the ceremony. They sent them like coupons for a hotel rate. And so they heard their Ring of Honor members at this year's Ring of Honor induction ceremony, which is, and Boomer Esiason, former Bengal, is the one talking about this. And it's just like, what are you doing? A few hundred bucks?
On, man. A couple hundred bucks.
Not a high-class organizational move.
No, it's a terrible look. Do you think these things aren't going to get out? I mean, they are still a multi-billion-dollar organization, even if they're cheaper than the Cowboys or whoever. And all my buddies, a bunch of people sent me what? This is like the Pirates. This is what are we doing here? I mean, it amazes me when organizations get that petty.
Kyle Hamilton, another newly minted football player, this a long-term contract with the Baltimore Ravens. And again, now I'm just bouncing around as I got so many things saved here to talk about. So the extension for Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton, 4 years, $100.4 million. So a little over $25 million AAV on a 4-year contract. It's the largest contract for a safety in NFL history, including $82 million guaranteed there. So, I like it when it's a $100 million contract. Really easy to start doing math on this. So 82% of this $100 million contract guaranteed for Kyle Hamilton.
So a lot on this, actually. I mean, first off, we pretty much knew he was not going anywhere, but if I'm his agent, my jumping off point is, fifth-year option for a safety that's been to the highest bracket in the Pro Bowls, et cetera. And that's guaranteed. That's our jumping off point for season 1 of this. And I definitely think he is the best as well as most valuable. That doesn't always correlate because, age and all those things. He's entering the prime of his career, and he's the best safety in the league. And is a ton of different usages. And now they drafted Starks in the first round. You can use them even more. But to me, what stands out about this deal is you mentioned the $82 million guaranteed. I think the next highest safety guaranteed money is only $46 million. It's right around there. I'm not looking at it, but it's almost double guaranteed money that any other safety's ever gotten, which to me is bonkers. But I also think it's noteworthy. You and I have talked about the Brian Branches of the world, when are teams going to start ponying up for slot corners, Cooper DeJean, big corners, big slots and a lot of safeties do that role too, Hamilton as well as anyone. Are teams going to start paying big slots, the money, a nice chunk of guaranteed money? I don't know. I'm just suggesting.
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult things to do, to be able to have the athleticism to man up, to have the range, to have the smarts and the know-how to be where you need to be over that slot position. Offenses are targeting the slot more and more, trying to find matchups there. And you're closer to the line of scrimmage. You're where the linebackers usually hang out. So you have to be a run defender in that position as well. And Kyle Hamilton can do all of those things. He can be in the slot. He's proven he can play deep as well. And you have Starks, who's multifaceted, and it's ideally you have a tandem of safeties where you can interchange them and drop them down late. One guy drops down, one guy's playing deep. You're both deep. You can both play near the line of scrimmage. You can both cover tight ends and running backs and wide receivers. And so I think the Ravens are putting together and clearly have emphasized how important that part of the football field is. And interior offensive linemen are getting paid more and more too. There's no
not inflation across the board.
Yeah, there's no positions on any team that aren't important anymore.
100% true. So just a quick slot comment. we're seeing a lot of, as always, but a lot of defenses now are countering 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, one of which is almost always a receiving type, with nickel. I mean, it used to be you'd get a lot of base versus 12. Now the league is trying to do it with nickel, but often with 3 safeties, big nickel, with one of them being like a slot Hamilton type guy, Buda Baker, whoever. And I definitely think that's the slot corner resume is changing very quickly. Like, I don't think teams want Mike Hilton. I mean, as good a player as he was, as tough as he was, anytime you see an undersized slot, Shanahan's like the best at this. Like, I'm going to run my running back. I'm going to make that guy tackle Derrick Henry.
Right. You have a big slot receiver like Juwan Jennings, who's kind of a borderline move tight end with how physically he blocks anyway. And so you find your advantages no matter what personnel you put out there. You either got a speed advantage, you got a size advantage in the run game, a size advantage in the blocking game, or a playmaking advantage with your eligibles.
Remember, I think we're seeing less Welkers in the slot too. I mean, you don't see a lot of Welker Edelmans in the slot anymore. Those guys are kind of a dying breed too.
Absolutely. League finding ways to be tough and big with still being fast too.
Yeah. Still being a passing league, but have some physicality.
A number of wide receivers on the move. We've got the biggest cuts and claims according to Peacock and Williamson, and we have some closure to the Rashae Rice suspension now that has been announced as well. Next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. NFL season, it's almost here. You can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season upon us. Everyone's researching, drafting, building their championship squads. Matt and I, Matt is putting out his rankings for your fantasy football drafts here, heading toward this big draft weekend. And if you haven't joined the league yet, now's the time. It's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. I'm playing Yahoo Fantasy. Matt's playing Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. With the season kickoff next Thursday, September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. How about the new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues? I'm excited for this mode. I'm in one now. It's a lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly format until one team is left standing. You want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. You prefer the classics? Get your crew together, head-to-head private leagues, and no crew, no problem. Just join a public league now. It's the easiest way to play. And the NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. I do have a little note here for our listeners, a listener survey. It's an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. And thanks for helping us out. Well, I got to go to let's go to the Raiders really quick here,
right,
who have added a wide receiver in Amari Cooper and have another wide receiver that they don't want to re-up that has suddenly requested a trade. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going on here with the Raiders. And we've seen some other wide receiver movement, Thielen, Tim Patrick as well. Is there a market for the Raiders to trade Jacoby Myers? And what do you think about that swap if it ends up being Jacoby Myers for Amari Cooper?
So the Steelers have been looking for a number 2 receiver for 1,000 years. Ayuk last year and blah, blah, blah.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling, apparently it was between the Niners and the Steelers. He chose the Niners.
Okay. I heard that as well. And frankly, I was happy about that. I didn't think that was good enough.
A little redundant too, skills.
Yeah.
I think Jacoby Myers better fit, right?
I think so. I think Jacoby Myers is like the definition of an NFL number 2, and that to me. So my point with the Steelers is, of all the available guys that have come up that are potential, fits, this is like my favorite one. I think, I think I think there has been talks between the two. He's also been linked to the Patriots, who cuts. Who they cut? They cut a receiver. They cut Kendrick Bourne.
Kendrick Bourne, right?
Yeah, and they picked up Tommy Cutlets. I mean, I don't know if that's a 1-for-1, but he's been linked to the Patriots. He's been linked to the Steelers. And as a Steeler guy, that's like my favorite option I've heard yet. I think you can get him for a fourth, maybe a third, $20 million on top of that, something like that. Sounds like he wants the Cortland Sutton contract, which is probably a little rich for my taste. I think he's a lesser player than Sutton, but they have similar resumes. So I definitely think there's a market, but Schefter doesn't seem to think a lot of teams are banging down the door for him. I heard him on McAfee or whatever, or talk quotes from it. But I would rather Myers than Cooper, but I'm quoting Matt Harmon here. Cooper is really interesting because when you read his reception perception profile, Harmon basically says Cooper with the Browns was open all the time, and the quarterbacks were so bad they never got him the football. Then trade deadline, he goes to Buffalo, gets hurt like the first practice in Buffalo, and never was quite the same. And now he has the quarterback, but he never got open in Buffalo. So I don't know what you get, you know?
That is so strange.
It's so weird,
he's
isn't
kind
it?
of been an enigma of a personality and a wide receiver for his entire career, and bounced around teams.
Yeah.
As good as he was, teams liked him and brought him in, but didn't want to keep him all that long. Really interesting player, and not a huge market for him either. So I don't think that Steelers should pay what you're talking about. If the Steelers were willing to give up a 3 and pay Jacoby Myers $20 million, I think that'd have been done.
I think that's like the max I would do.
Yeah,
from a Steeler perspective.
more like
I'd
$15
$15
million, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if there's not a huge market.
Yeah,
but I think there's a good chance he moves. I mean, this staff in Vegas didn't sign him. He's up after the year. It's going to be a Bowers-centric offense. I mean, some of the other young receivers, Besh and Thornton, have some potential, you know.
Yeah, and if you just look at the type, and to be honest with you, seeing Deontay Thornton kind of thrive, and Besh has been kind of taking a back seat a little bit, which is an interesting development in camp so far. But maybe part of that is like, okay, well, Besh would operate where Jacoby Myers operates. So that would
I think Besh is a big slot.
And Jacoby Myers has kind of been a little bit of that too. And clearly they want that player to be Bowers in the offense.
Right.
So it starts to make a little bit more sense. You're putting together, you want more of an outside guy. There's not much of a market for Cooper. He got $3.5 million with, some bonuses to potentially get up to at a maximum $6 million for the year if he hits all the bonuses. And the 49ers were apparently in on him as well. Niners apparently interested in every wide receiver. They brought in Marquez Valdes-Scantling, it's looking like, on a 1-year deal. They're apparently interested even after that signing still with Kendrick Bourne, and they were second apparently with Amari Cooper, and were not even willing to give up $3.5 million. So they're probably offering him one of those kind of veteran minimum type of deal. So the Niners want receivers but don't want to pay for them is kind of what's going on right now. And by the way, the Niners have, before the Valdes-Scantling signing, they had 2 healthy receivers. If the season started tomorrow, it would be Pearsall and Sky Moore, and nobody else would have been able to play. And now they add at least one more in Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and might have some other guys healthier by week 1. But it's one of the things that's fascinating is we just talked about safeties making more money, interior offensive linemen are making more money. You look at the waivers and who were cut by teams and who were picked up, and you see some of these trades. It's hard to find an offensive lineman.
You can,
and you could find 1,000 wide receivers right now, but wide receivers are like the second highest paid position in the NFL after quarterbacks and defensive ends.
I think there's a little imbalance in the force. So, there's such a shortage of O-linemen that, I feel like every team should draft an offensive lineman every year, whether you need them or not. So, throw a 6th-round pick at a tackle that maybe hits, maybe doesn't.
And look, we want to look at the team that's doing its best on the offensive line. I think that ties into one of my most interesting claims in the cut down period for the NFL over the last 24 hours. But first, we got to finish up this conversation about wide receivers. A couple of trades as well. Adam Thielen going back home to Minnesota. The Vikings get Thielen and a conditional 2026 7th rounder, so a 7th rounder this year, and a 2027 5th rounder. So the Vikings get Thielen, a 7th this year, a 5th next year, and the Panthers get a 5th this year and a 4th next year.
Okay, that's not bad. So they this year, correct me if I'm wrong. They this year they moved from 7 to 5. Next year they moved from 5 to 4. up.
Correct. Yes,
The
correct.
Panthers. Great.
Yeah.
I think that's good compensation for someone his age. That I didn't even care about the compensation. It's funny. I didn't even look at what the trade was until you just mentioned it now. I was just happy that this happened because, he played at a tiny school in Minnesota. He had a ton of success there. They're going to love him. I understand that him and McCarthy already have a relationship and have worked out together, over the summer. They're buddies. I didn't know that. Old, reliable, know where he's going to be, Wooby for the young quarterback. Addison's out. We even talked about this on Locked On Dynasty today. Maybe you could even start Thielen in fantasy if it's like a 3 as a flex or something like that. I mean, I think immediately he should produce to some degree. And then you have a nice trio with Hawkinson for your young quarterback when Addison returns. That's a really nice spot. But I also love it for the Panthers because they drafted Leggett. They moved a couple spots to get in the first round to get Leggett last year. And they used him as an X and on the line, man coverage beater. And it's not what he is at all. He's much closer to the Deebo Samuel, move around, big physical, run after the catch, space player. He's not a battle Christian Gonzalez at the line of scrimmage route runner. But that's what Tet McMillan is. So Tet McMillan comes in as the X, and Leggett goes to where he belongs in the Z. And Coker, who I think is a really good young player too, is your obvious slot now too. He's the big slot. So you have your receivers set, and they're all first or second year guys. I mean, it's perfect for Carolina.
Yeah, win-win. And the Vikings had to pay a little bit, even more than I might have expected. So clearly the Panthers still valued what Thielen was. And
there must have been a market for him.
I mean, last year
were the Steelers or Niners after him too. I don't know.
There was a lot of Thielen involved in the Bryce Young kind of comeback last year as well. Like he was the 100%. Most highly targeted guy, so he was helpful to the young quarterback, and so he's probably helpful. Actually, another bonus for the Panthers is they still got to have an entire camp of the veteran with their young receiver and Tet McMillan too.
But then he was a great influence.
Now when it's time to play the games, thanks for the knowledge, and now you can go play for
and one team's contending and one isn't. You know,
yeah.
I think it's like the perfect trade.
Like it, even though I still spelled his name wrong in the background. Now that I look at it,
Did you?
We were talking about it after, and I know it's IE, and I still spelled it EI. I'll never get Adam Thielen's name right.
We were joking off the air. I spell Chiefs and receiver wrong every time, and I've typed them 8,000 million times in my life.
Hey, look, we weren't English majors, although you were.
I kind of was. Yeah.
That was the creativity part, how you spell the words. Okay.
Right.
All right, one more trade for wide receivers. Tim Patrick going to the Jags, and why it might even be more impactful for the Lions and your fantasy football team. And a couple of our more surprising, more interesting claims and cuts around the NFL in the last 24 hours. Next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL season, it's almost here. You can taste it, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It's the most I've ever seen them give away in free dollars, and all you got to do for new customers is join FanDuel and win your first $5 bet, and you can have $300 extra to play with and bet on weekly lines. And there's already weekly lines for all 18 weeks up at FanDuel. Tons of props for the 2025 season, not just NFL football, but college football and every sport imaginable. And it makes game day more exciting. You know, you're watching your favorite team. Keep an eye on these other lineups and your fantasy lineup and your bets that you're trying to win every single week. It's quick and easy, and add a little energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So Tim Patrick gets moved to the Jacksonville Jaguars from the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. And I think we both thought the same thing when we saw this move is, okay, you know, Jaguars get another receiver in there, veteran receiver. But what about rookie Isaac Tesla?
Yeah.
Has he done so much that he's gone from deep fantasy sleeper to, we got to really pay attention to what's going on with Tesla, because he had a really nice preseason in camp with the Lions.
Yeah, we had an in-depth conversation this morning on Locked On Dynasty about this. Like, I don't quite understand it from the Jags perspective. And I immediately said, don't all of a sudden think like Travis Hunter is going to be a full-time corner because they traded for Patrick. Like, it doesn't change my opinion at all. But he's their fourth receiver. Fine. Okay. I mean, I don't quite understand the attraction from Jacksonville, but they didn't give a lot up. But I think this is kind of like the Panther conversation, where we're just trying to open the door for a really exciting, young, athletic wide receiver in Tesla with the extra A on the end. You know?
Extra A, unlike the old inventor and the car company. Spelled different, pronounced different.
I said it's pronounced a little different too. Yeah.
Tesla.
But he's been great in the preseason. He's big, strong, physical, downfield. You know, I think he's legit. He's basically a starter now. He's the third receiver.
I have one that is the most fascinating waiver claim to me. Did you have any any claims around the NFL that really stood out to you? I think some of the bigger names, obviously we talked about Tommy DeVito already going to the Pats. It wasn't a waive. It was a veteran free agent, because, you know, if you're a veteran in the NFL, you get cut after camp, but you're released and you can sign with anybody. If you're on your rookie contract, you get waived and you have to clear waivers first before you can be free to sign with a practice squad. And we're still seeing practice squads getting filled out around the NFL. One of those practice squad players with the Panthers is Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see him get cut by the Detroit Lions already.
Yeah, I don't have much take on that. I noticed in their opening, remember, it was the Hall of Fame game, and we kind of thought, oh, we're going to get Lance versus Hooker. That's fun. Yeah. And then Hooker didn't play, and it's like, oh, I guess this guy's not in as much favor as we thought, or never adjusted from the weird Tennessee offense. I thought that was an interesting one. The one I would bring up, and I don't know all the waiver wire claims as well as I should, but I found it interesting that Cole Strange gets cut, the first round pick, ends up with the Browns. Why wouldn't anyone pick him up? He never should have been a first round pick to begin with.
He shouldn't have been a first round pick. I think. Look, and this is probably the best example of, you know, post draft, and sometimes you are, as an analyst, critical of a team's draft and you don't give them a good grade, and then instantly what's going to happen is there's going to be a small portion of fans that are going to be like mad on their keyboard and all caps, I think they know better than you do. Well, you know what? In some cases, they just don't. And teams screw this up. And late career GM Bill Belichick was straight bad. He was not good. And it was part of how that all fell apart there in New England. And in fact, part of that 2022 draft class that started with Cole Strange as the 29th pick. And by the way, remember, they moved down. And speaking of bad moves in the draft, so a lot of tie-ins here, Matt. So you mentioned Hooker against Lance in the preseason. Well, Trey Lance won the number 2 job. Taylor Heineke got cut, and Lance is now the backup for the Chargers. Good. So he won that job. But how did the Patriots end up with the 29th pick in the 2022 draft? Well, that was part of the Trey Lance trade up by the 49ers. Then that pick went from Miami, who traded down with the Niners in the draft before, for them to go up and get Trey Lance. The Miami Dolphins traded it to the Kansas City Chiefs for Tyreek Hill. And then the Chiefs moved up in the draft in 2022. And I can't remember if that was for George Karlaftis or the corner McDuffie, but they moved up and the Patriots moved down. So they were the 4th owners of that 29th pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And they ended up taking Cole Strange. So sometimes, you know, I'm a trade down guy, but sometimes if you're trading out of a tier of players, maybe it might not be the smartest move, because whatever like 4th round pick they added, they had 3 4th round picks that year. None of them are on the roster either. In fact, looking at the Patriots 2022 draft class, only one player, 3rd round corner, Marcus Jones, return man and cornerback. He's the only guy left on the entire roster from that draft.
Wow. It's not like that roster's loaded either.
Let me just run through it real quick. Cole Strange, round 1. Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver, round 2.
That was bad when it happened too.
Another Jones, Jack Jones, DB, gone, round 4. There's 3 4th round picks. Jack Jones, Pierre Strong, Bailey Zappi. Pierre Strong just got cut from the Browns, his second team already today or yesterday. Kevin Harris, never even heard of that guy. 6th round pick, running back. They had 3 6ths that year. Sam Roberts, Chasen Hines, and then 7th rounder Andrew Stuber.
Wow.
None of them were on the roster.
And the original point, we were all critical of that draft this day after it happened, before they ever put pads on, you know, right? Yeah. Like, what are you doing with Cole Strange and Tyquan Thornton in your first 2 picks, you know?
And so there is some wisdom in a lot of really good analysts, and there's a sort of this consensus draft board.
It's better than it's ever been.
Evidence is showing us if you vary too far away from, you know, a consensus expert draft board, you're probably screwing up.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, the Dane Bruglers, let alone Mel, that's done it forever, and there's so many good ones now that if you combined all their knowledge with the Daniel Jeremiahs and the guys that are really locked into the league too, where people are telling them stuff, it's way better than it used to be. When people were looking at Street and Smith magazines when I was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to go through every cut and claim. I want to highlight one though. I'm going to highlight two. We talked about how hard it is to find offensive linemen. The Jets are hoarding offensive tackles, and the Chiefs cut Esa Pole, a big athletic offensive tackle, and the Jets with the 7th, that were number 7 in the waiver priority, claimed him. So another offensive tackle for the Jets. And another offensive lineman, this is the most fascinating to me, is Willie Lampkin, who is a size outlier. He's like 5'10", 290 maybe.
Yeah.
Awesome tape in college, but he's too small. But he goes to the Senior Bowl, dominates at the Senior Bowl, just crushes it against guys that were top 50 picks. If Willie Lampkin was 6'2", he'd probably been a top 50 pick himself, top 100 pick at least. But, he's 5'10". And so he ends up going undrafted. Then for the Rams in the preseason, proceeds to have the highest PFF grade of all rookie offensive linemen in the entire preseason, gets waived/injured, which means there was an injury for him. And in those cases, who are even more rarely claimed than regular, waived players, because they
have a major injury.
Usually it's a more major injury. Sometimes it's an injury that you could come back from, and teams try to stash players too, which is kind of unfair to the player. It's like a 4-week injury, and they just stash you for the whole year by putting you on IR. But if you clear waivers, you go back to the original team that waived you, but on IR, so your season's over. So that's what would happen to Willie Lampkin. But the team with the best offensive line and the best offensive line coach in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles, claimed Willie Lampkin. And they've had some success drafting and developing undersized centers, and particularly one Hall of Famer. And so
that's what I was going to say. If Kelsey and Lampkin walked in the door, you could see same church, maybe a different pew, but I mean, they're not that far differently, physically speaking. I mean, Kelsey's a small dude, and he got drafted late because of that. Based off quickness and leverage and all those things.
One thing that helped Kelsey a lot is he was like right at, I think, 6 feet. So he wasn't like 5'10" and a half or whatever Lampkin was. So he was like a little bit closer to being just somewhat of an outlier instead of just a crazy outlier size-wise, which is really the only thing with Willie Lampkin. Kelsey's athletic testing was insane. Lampkin didn't test that great pre-draft as an athlete.
Not like
I think that kind of hurt him, but he's a leverage monster. He's a former wrestler, and the tape is good. He's just good everywhere he's gone. He's just too small, and teams don't want to give him a shot.
Yeah. I thought maybe he'd end up being Patrick Ricard.
Yeah.
I mean, he might not run well enough, but who
knows? Maybe that's what the Eagles are doing here too. A reserve that can kind of be an
Nobody likes outliers more than the Eagles.
Right. So taking a shot for nothing. So we'll see. Willie Lampkin. It's a fascinating one for me.
Absolutely. That's a fun story in itself. He's good at football.
He is. He's just short.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I think that's enough. Yeah. There's a ton of cuts that you can go find out and go look at. I'm sure everyone's on top of the cuts for their teams and the claims. Let us know what you think. What were the most impactful cuts and claims for your team? Hit us on Twitter at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Tomorrow's mailbag episode. So this probably stir up a lot of questions and topics for tomorrow's episode as well. And of course, you can drop a question or a comment in the YouTube comments section. And Matt and I back tomorrow right here, Peacock and Williamson.